stand up there. When he's doing the display on the wall, you guys can just do the parting of the C in. Hi, May.
Why, hello. You guys are going to stand.
No.
I'm going to.
That's good.
Is there rope?
Kick that from high.
Oh, this is being secretary for both of them.
He loves it so much. He's so excited. You guys can come in farther if you want. Like, don't be shy.
Do it by civic duty.
Yeah. That's good.
We'll give it 2 more minutes, 3 more minutes, and we'll start. I see you all have papers, so you all sign in.
It's hard.
Day to day.
Possibly. You can come in. Come on. Well, we're waiting to have them come in. We're going to do roll calls and all of us up here at the board, so, and then you signed in out there. I did already. Did it say? Okay. And so we're going to have Marty from Becker do the presentation of all the bids, and we got a lot more options this time. Tried to give it a little more detailed for you guys, so you understood it better. And so I'm going to give him the floor, and he'll probably do it for like 45 minutes or so. And then you'll have like 10, 15 minutes to question us about what we can answer. And then we have the ballots that you should have got when you came in. And then hopefully we have the same number of ballots as we have at the signing in. And then we'll count them. It might be a few minutes, and then we'll tell you the results. Excellent. So this is Marty from Becker.
Hi, how's everyone this evening? Pretty full house, which is good.
Yeah. You guys can come in, just scoot in.
Yeah. Okay, we're gonna have to try and
Push
squeeze in.
together. You can
Yeah,
go this
squeeze
way,
in.
go stand that way,
Yeah.
because
So-
he's gonna use that as his board up there.
So those
Parting of the
drawings on the wall, we're gonna refer to in a little bit. So everybody will just have to try and do the best they can to view it. Okay, so the purpose of tonight's meeting is to go back to the June 9th meeting when questions were raised about did anybody really do due diligence and evaluate existing facilities for reuse as opposed to replacing them with new. Okay, so that's what I've been doing here. And so I want to start with the fact that, okay, so the premise of your original project, which is, if you look at that upper right drawing, okay, that's the original project where you have consolidated facilities for your office space, your garage, your salt storage, your fuel storage station, and your recycling. Okay, so everything's on one site. So that project would be built completely compliant to the current codes, all right? And would be built large enough to meet your needs for the foreseeable future without little or no maintenance, okay? It should be as properly sized for your needs, for equipment, so on and so forth, right? So that's one of the conditions that we wanted to keep in mind as we're evaluating existing facilities. The other is, if existing facilities need to be upgraded in order to get them to comply with code that is in place now, or if there's shortcomings in terms of their capacity, their size, etc., can they be upgraded with additions, or do we have to change how the use of the buildings, etc., are done so that you can comply with the code? So we want to try and do as close as possible to an apples to apples comparison of new facilities versus upgrade and reuse of existing. All right. So those are two things really important to keep in mind. All right. So the question. So I started with, okay. So if we're going to reuse existing facilities, what can we do with this building here? All right. This building isn't ADA compliant. It doesn't have accessibility. All right. It doesn't have restrooms. Those are both code requirements because this is an A3 use. It's an assembly use. Exactly what we've got going on here today. We've got an assembly of people. All right. So we have to have restrooms. The building has to be accessible. All right. For example, this building area right now, this floor area that's at one level, not that area that's elevated. Okay. This floor area is about 390 square feet. And we've got about roughly 55 people in here, something like that, maybe a little bit more. So that would be considered, this would be considered full at this point, standing room only, per code, all right? So the new building, well, I'll talk about that in a little bit. But so you've got limitations in terms of size and capacity of the building. This building then, based on the capacity of the people in here, would require 2 restrooms. All right, you have to have separate sex restrooms, or you can have 2 unisex, or I guess they typically call them unisex. So they're either sex, all right? And that way you can handle the capacity needs of occupants during a meeting like this. So you have to add 2 restrooms to this building. All right, so we looked at, is there the possibility of doing that on this site? Can we do an addition to this building to get it up to code and add the restrooms? So this first one up here on the upper left, okay, so I apologize for the image, it's pretty grainy, but that's the best we could get off of the internet. So here's the building itself that we're in. Here is the lot in green that it sits on, all right? This is the zoning setback by the county. So the building doesn't even fit in the zoning setback right now. And is that a problem for this building if you don't do anything to it? No, it's not, because it's grandfathered. But if you try to do improvements to it, now you got problems, okay? You can't, there's no place to add on to it. So that made it pretty simple that trying to upgrade this building on this site's not gonna work. That's not an option. So we looked at the second option would be, what if we were to take this building and move it over to the garage site and set it there and then do an upgrade to it? So that's this view down here, and I'll try to stay out of everyone's way here. All right, so this is the lot that the garage site occupies right now. So this green here at the bottom would be this building moved, so that would be this area on the right-hand side, and then we would do an addition on the left-hand side to add the restrooms and a mechanical room. All right, so is that doable? Yeah, it's doable. it's got its challenges, but it can work, right? So you have to have, not only do you have to provide the accessibility to the building, so we have to have ADA parking stalls, we have to have an accessible route from those parking stalls to the building, so on. So those are all things that have to be considered when you're looking at what's the total cost, all right? So then we started, okay, so we got one option that works for us. We could move this building over there and upgrade it. But what else is wrong with the site, or what other problems do we have with the site that might make us want to change our mind? So this is the garage, all right? This is your salt storage building, all right? This salt storage building, your well is right here that serves this building. These are about 130 feet apart. This building's like 106 feet long, so that well sits right about there. That's about 130 feet over here. So the problem with that is, that's a code violation. You can't have bulk storage within 250 feet of a public well. So that means, what can we do? Can we move the well? Well, the lot's not big enough. There's no place on the lot that's 250 feet and still on the property that's 250 feet from that building. So we can't move the well. So that means the other option is, if we're going to move this building over there, put restrooms in it, then we need to move the salt storage shed. It has to go off the site. Got to build it somewhere else. All right, so everybody following that okay? Okay. So then we looked at one more option, which was, this building's small and it really doesn't necessarily fit your needs, but it probably, you could get by with it. So we looked at the option of building this office space that was per your original design. So this office space is about 2.5 times larger than this, right? So what you get, though, is you get a much larger meeting room, you get a clerk's office, you get a secure file storage that's fire protected, you get additional storage, and you get your restrooms and your cantilevers, okay? So we looked at that option. Now that option, again, we're trying to occupy the space where this is where your recycling area, your fenced-in recycling area is. So we would be occupying that. So that fenced-in recycling area would need to go to another site, right? We'd have to move it. So this, since the building is much larger, is more of a challenge for construction in terms of grading, topography, how do we handle the accessibility, parking stalls, etc. So you're gonna end up doing a lot more fill, a lot more grading work, probably retaining walls in order to make that option work. So the only other thing you could do, if this one really became problematic, the other thing is, I neglected to mention this, you can't see this line far back, but this line that runs right through here, okay, that's a setback line from the center line of the road. So the county's standard is 75 feet. So this building would be encroaching out into that setback. Could you get a variance to do it? You probably could. You'd have to petition to the county and find out if they would allow that, but my guess is they would. Your other option, if they said, no, we don't want that, would be to remove this unit storage building that you've got sitting here, move that out of there, move this building over here. So now you're out of, you don't have the conflict with the setbacks. So there are some options, but anyway, there's some constraints, okay? I think everybody can see that you've got constraints. That site is very tight. There's a lot of topography across it, so it's going to take a lot of grading work. And again, probably some retaining walls, et cetera, to make it work. But it can be done. Okay, so I want to talk about the garage a little bit. So again, the premise is we're going to comply with code and we're going to be accessible, right? And we're going to handle any other deficiencies within the building. So in terms of how I estimated or determined what was applicable for costs, all right? The garage building was built back in the mid-1970s, so it's 50 years old. It appears to be in decent shape. I did walk through it, I measured it, etc., and it seems to be in fairly good condition, but it does have some problems. Okay, the exterior steel on the roof and the walls needs to be replaced because it's late aged and starting to rust. A lot of indications of corrosion. You've got damage at the doorways where it's been bumped into with equipment that need to be repaired. But it's got a couple of really big problems, and one of them is there's a trench drain that is in this building that is collecting whatever is falling on the floor, okay? And that trench drain doesn't have what they call a catch basin that allows it to catch. That basin catches all the oils and grease and silt and dirt and things like that. It doesn't have one. Well, that's a code violation. So it has to have one. So in order to keep the trench drain, you have to put in a catch basin, right? And then you got to figure out, you're going to have to put in a holding tank in order to discharge into that, right? Because you can't just discharge it onto the ground, which it does now. That trench drain's got a pipe that runs out of here, and it comes up here and discharges direct to the ground. It's a violation, so you can't do that.
How much for the upgrade?
Pardon?
How much does it cost to upgrade that trench?
Well, I've got it in the estimate, and I'll talk about that. So the other thing that's important about this building that is deficient in, there's no makeup air, all right? So it has to have an outside air source because you've got vehicles stored in here. And it has to have an outside air source per the building code, per the fire code, and per the mechanical code. So we have to put in a makeup air system in order to make this building compliant, right? So those are a couple of the bigger things that are probably wrong with that building. And again, I've only taken a cursory look at it. If we started taking the steel off the building and found out there's other things that are hidden, well, we have to deal with it. All right. So before we get into any questions, I want to go over a few more things. All right. So again, keeping in mind what the premise is that we want to comply with the code and we want to meet the long-term needs for 20 years. So that's how we have to keep considering what is appropriate to do for the existing facilities in order for them to meet those conditions. So based on the amount of slope that's on this site and the impervious area that you've got associated with the buildings, and we're going to add more impervious area, you have to put in stormwater management on this site. You can't just let everything run off the site down into the ditches untreated. So we have to put in some type of a treatment pond here so that we intercept everything that's coming off the site and give it a chance to settle out and then discharge the effluent out of the pond. All right? Again, we're protecting the waters of neighboring properties so that we're not, something not getting contaminated. Just want to review my notes here quick. Okay, so another item on, I kind of touched on this, but the parking in order to, so let's look at what we've got up here on the original plan, all right? You've got a much larger area to work with here in terms of square footage. So you've got ample parking space all the way through here, all right? The site is relatively flat. This gradient across here is in general somewhere between 10 and 13%, all right? So it's fairly steep. So how do you accommodate any additional parking? Well, you really can't, okay? You don't have space for it. This part of the lot is even steeper than this part. This is the flattest part of the lot, and it's still fairly steep. So trying to squeeze in more parking to be more akin to what you've got available there just doesn't work.
Marty, did you touch on fuel storage?
All right, another thing. This building right now, okay, this building's got a fuel storage tank sitting about right here in the floor area, all right? It's sitting in between a couple of the overhead garage doors. It's about 300 gallons, and that's what Shane uses for fuel for township vehicles. Well, that's code violation. You can't store that much fuel in a building. 60 gallons max is all that's required and allowed, and it has to be in an isolated room that is fire-rated construction, so that, again, if a fire breaks out, you don't have something catastrophic happen. So that fuel storage tank has to move out of the building. So again, if this went away, you could put it over here. It's not great because it's isolated up at the end of the site, but it would help. Okay, it would be better. You can't leave it in here, so you got to get it out here, or you move it over to the new site on end, right? Because this has got to go someplace. So the logical place for it to go is the property over on end. So you move the salt storage building over there, move your fueling station over there, but then that has a trickle-down effect. What do you do about the traffic that's over at the site on end? You got to build a building, cold storage building, to house it. But you can't be driving 2 miles back and forth from the garage site down to end to load salt in vehicles when they need to go out do road maintenance. Tractor's got to be where the salt is, right? So again, there are trickle-down things, other things that crop up when you start looking at these sites, and again, keeping in mind, we want to comply with the code, and we want to think long-term. Okay? So, let's look at, does anybody have questions about any of that?
Marty, one question. If we did put the town hall in the couple of spots that you showed us, and there's bathrooms in the town hall, does there need to be bathrooms in the garage?
You have to have one bathroom in that building because it is, again, used by a public employee. They have to have a restroom. It has to have plumbing. It has, all it's got right now is a hose bib. There's no sink in there. You have to have a hand wash sink in a garage, right? There's no sink in there. There's no bathroom in there. So we have to build restroom inside the building. We have to build a small mechanical area to house a pressure tank, etc. So the one good thing about that building is that the radiant heating system is fairly new. Apparently you did that a couple of years ago when you had some COVID money. So you don't have to deal with that. But in talking about area, okay, we were talking about areas that we were comparing areas of this office area to areas of what you could get here, right? Same thing for the garage, right? This garage that you've got up here is a 4-bay garage, heated with in-floor heat, all right? And in total, it's about 2 times larger than this garage area, right? And the other, so you got a piece of cold storage here, okay, and that's where you keep your tractor now. That cold storage, all right, if you had all of this as heated garage, it'd be fairly equivalent to what you get with that building, right? It'd be fairly close. The other problem with this garage is that it really is too shallow. The depth isn't deep enough, okay? This is the door, overhead door side, right? So the back wall here, from here to here is about 38 feet 8 inches. When you got trucks with plows, etc., in there, they have to jimmy them in there at an angle, and that leaves no walking space through this garage area. Everything is packed in there like a sardine can. So that again is a code violation. Anytime you have a public building like this, you have to maintain clear paths of at least 3 feet wide that somebody can see how to get out of the building, right? So I stood right here in the building and was looking through it both directions. I said, okay, how do I get out of here? And I can't see the doorways. There's a door here, there's a door here, because there's all the equipment and everything in there, and I can't see where it is. I can't find the doors. So trying to walk out of there, you're walking, snaking through all this stuff, but if it's pitch black, because there's power outage, you can't find your way out of it. So again, that's a code violation. So that has to be corrected. So how would you correct that in this situation? It's impractical to try and think you can build on to this end of the building. Okay, you can't move this wall out, okay, and build this deeper. You may as well tear the building down and start over. There's just no practical way to do it. So how can you get around that? Okay, well, you don't store the plows in the garage. Okay, plows are stored outside, and when they need to go out and plow, they roll the truck up, hook the plow up, go out and plow. When they're done, you come back, unhook the plow, and put it back in the garage. So, not the most efficient way to handle this, but it could work.
Couldn't you just put one of those exit signs up above so that people would know where the exit was?
Sure, but again, you have to create a clear walking path of 3 feet, unobstructed. So I can not only see where the exit is, or see a sign where the exit is, all right, but I've got a clear path to walk through there, right? There's no emergency lighting in that building, so if you lose power, it's pitch black, okay? The exit signs are not on battery backup, but there's no emergency lighting in there. So emergency lighting is placed in key spots so that it lights egress paths. So that if the power goes out, it's all on battery backup. If the power goes out, you can see the egress route. It shows you, okay, I've got a sign up here that said, oh, the exit's down here. And I can see my path out, so I get to my spot where I've got to turn, I see it. I've got that lit too, and then I find my exit. So, like I said, there's a lot of trickle-down things. There are a lot of little things that come into play when you reuse buildings that are this old. Because they weren't built to any real code standard back then. So, upgrading existing can be troublesome.
When you're talking about this estimate, 1,300,000, there's always, when you start tearing stuff and redoing stuff, there's always gonna be more stuff that's gonna,
Correct.
oh, I didn't think this was gonna be that way, or this is rotten, or this is
Right.
whatever. It's gonna be a lot more than what this is.
Yeah, well, like I said, when you start taking the shell of the building off and you start looking at things and say, oh boy, we've got rafter problems, okay, we've got wall problems here, we need to address them. Okay, we're not gonna cover them up, we're gonna fix them. So
Right, you
gotta-
can't put that in estimate, because you won't know until you
Well,
start tearing.
we threw a
apart.
contingency in here, okay, to kind of try and cover some of that stuff. But you don't know what you don't know, right? You can't know what you can't see. So, any other questions?
Is there like a deadline that we're reaching to try and meet? compliance to all this stuff? I'm just asking.
No, I mean, there's really no deadline necessarily, but obviously, all public buildings are supposed to be in compliance with the code, all right? Are they? No, they're not, okay? They're not, all right? The code isn't retroactive, okay? So, again, if you didn't touch this building, you didn't do anything to it, you didn't have to do anything to it, you were okay with it the way it is, the code can't tell you, dictate to you, you have to add restrooms, all right? You have to fix that entrance, you have to fix this ramp, right?
If you're
Code
gonna
official-
approve it, then you have to.
Exactly. And then you gotta bring it up to code. So that's the only way that, you know, authority like the state it's the only way they can get buildings that are continued to be reused. It's the only way they can start incrementally upgrade them and get them in compliance with the code. So,
What is gonna happen with the town, the existing town buildings, if we move forward with the new building plan?
Well, we were gonna move it over for history reasons, right, historic reasons, but if it costs too much, we'll just sell it.
And the same with the garage?
The
Because you
garage
said
will
the garage
sell.
is in relatively good shape, so theoretically, that could be applied to the money that's
Yes,
borrowed to
exactly.
decrease that.
and help offset.
Yeah.
The garage would be sold.
Yeah, which I think is important to consider in the
Right.
process.
Now, wouldn't you have to spend how much money to bring it up to code before you could sell it?
No.
No. No.
What's mandating the urgency of this situation here that we discussed?
Probably the prices, because if we would have done it 6 years ago, it cost us 900,000. So the longer we wait, the harder it is for us not to be taxed out of our mind, right?
Yeah, I
So we're
mean-
trying to keep it affordable for you guys and not address it in 50 years, and then it's a $10 million project.
Yeah, unfortunately, the cost of construction just does not go
Doesn't
down.
stop.
You know? Since COVID, I think everybody can probably speak from their own experience. They've noticed costs have gone up significantly. There's not only cost increases, there's shortages of materials, there's shortages of labor, and that's why it's tough, you know? People that, we did the same project for the town of Moscow, probably about 7, 8 years ago. And that building is pretty much identical to what we're talking about here. The site's a little bit different, but the building's very similar. That project was now nowhere near 1.9 million. It was more like 1.2 or 1.3.
Is this project going to referendum?
No.
And
That's why you guys are here, to vote on it.
I didn't even see it anywhere.
You guys should come to our meetings. That's how you see it. We've been talking about this for 2.5 years.
You need to make this more known to everybody because a lot of people, this is the first time we're hearing about it.
But we've been on the, if you look at the agendas for the last 2.5 years, it's been on the agenda that we've been talking about building a town hall.
And I understand that, but maybe not everybody is online getting these agendas.
Right.
You need to communicate.
Well, do you go to
better.
the recycling center?
My husband does, yes.
So they're always posted. And it's always posted out here, and it's always posted on the internet. And this time.
Where on the internet?
We posted
Exactly, we're on the internet.
at our township website.
That's the Facebook page is not official.
Yep. And he posted in the Monroe, which is posted a million times.
Monroe Times and Messenger Report.
So we've been trying to get it out to you guys. And for 2.5 years.
Why couldn't,
Say-
why couldn't it be on an election? When you have an election, a presidential or a state election?
Well, because that comes down that we have to wait another year almost to get on.
Only waited 2.5 years, what's a little more, that everybody that's.
How
There's
many-
rules
Everybody that's
in-
an eligible voter would get a chance to vote on it.
Oh, one at a time.
There's rules on what you can and can't put on a ballot. You can't just add something on a ballot because you want to. There's state statutes that regulate that. You know, and the other thing I would say too is the concerns about finding out the information is not unique to the town of Washington. I think that's, you know, something that's dictated by state statute. I mean, it is property owner's responsibility to check the agendas. I mean, there's virtually no way to get to everybody about this information.
I do have one other question on the cost. How is this affecting our taxes and with the significant?
So we're gonna let Marty do his stuff, and because per the meeting, you get to talk one time for 2 minutes, okay? So we're gonna let him go and finish his, and he'll go through the bids, what he estimates them to be, and then we'll get to that tax.
Okay, so
Okay?
the correction, these are not bids.
Right, sorry.
These are my opinion of cost, okay, or my opinions of cost, okay? So you should have been able to pick up 3 different pieces of paper, okay? One that is the original project, okay, which totals about 1.9 million. Then another one that is to relocate this building over onto the garage site, do the various upgrades that we've been talking about to this building as well as the garage and the site. And that estimate, that, I'm not even gonna call it an estimate, okay, it's an opinion of cost, is 1.3 million. Then I looked at the last item where we actually build the larger office area up on the garage site and do the other improvements that we discussed, okay? That opinion is about 1.8 million. So you got 3 numbers. One is 1.3, which is you end up with the smallest office space with no clerk space, no file storage, no extra storage. You end up with a really small mechanical room. So it's bare minimum. Okay, that's the bare bones. Then you have an upgrade where you actually build the larger office space that more fits your 20-year long-term goals, right? Then you have the last one, which is your full project with all your facilities consolidated on one site.
And that is?
That's 1.9, they wanna know that cost.
1.9.
Oh, yeah, that's without the sale of the other building.
So, yeah, obviously, as was mentioned, you do get some offset if in fact you were to sell these properties that you currently have, sell this site, sell your garage site, build your new facilities down on end. You have some offset with the sale of these properties to help defer, help with some of that cost.
David?
On the estimate for the new construction, the 180,000 for engineering, is that additional to what's already been spent? Or is that, is what already been spent inclusive of that $180,000?
No, I mean, it wouldn't necessarily be additional. We're gonna have additional
We've
work
already
to
spent
do
some, correct.
if we work with these sites.
I was talking the new site, the $180,000 estimate.
Right.
So is that 180,000 additional to what's been spent on engineering right now?
No, that's our budget.
We-
That's our.
we
So
already
we've already
spent
spent a
that.
good portion of that, right?
We spent about 50,000.
Yeah.
That's the engineering budget for that project. One thing we did do, if you look at those estimates, or these opinions anyway, when, again, we're talking about the existing facilities because we can't know what we can't see, or we haven't had a chance to investigate yet, right? I bumped the contingencies up on those projects. The contingency factor is higher because there are more unknowns. So we have to try and compensate for that.
Wasn't it like 20-some%? I don't have.
On
was
the one,
thinking on the
yeah,
numbers.
I bumped it up to 15% on one and 20 for the other. Again, just trying to cover bases. We want to have a budget, okay? We're not interested in being the low bidder. We want a budget that's going to be adequate, so you're not scrambling when if you do get to a bidding stage where you're putting this out to contractors to bid, that you don't have a budget shortfall.
by the time we move this and move everything, we're gonna be spending a pile of, this is probably gonna fall apart when you try to get it out of here. So
You might.
there's a lot of expenses that you're gonna run into where if you've got a new site, level it and put up new would probably,
Well,
I
again,
hate to say it, but it's probably the way to go.
I did, when I looked at the cost, trying to determine cost, these costs, when you retrofit something, that's not like building new, okay? You run into a lot of things, contractors are slowed down, they're working around things. Again, if you're gonna occupy the garage while they're actually working in there, that's gonna slow the construction process way down, okay? So the costs are significantly higher on a unit price basis than if you're starting from scratch with an open field and building, okay?
What's the timeline if we go with the new garage? What's the timeline on that? Or the new building?
Well, I mean, the original timeline for this was always 2026 construction, and you're still well within that timeline.
What is it gonna cost us if we sell the recycling center in the garage over there for EPA cleanup?
Very good question.
Can we sell it? We have
Well,
to consider that.
I'm hoping that they'll buy it as is and we'll auction it off. We're not gonna list it, because I'm a realtor and I just feel like everyone had meltdown on that. So I'm like, we'll just do an auction. Everybody can go there and bid on it. We'll put a minimum on it, and then you all can go at it if you want it. And it has to be sold as is, because we don't wanna do any repairs.
Well, we hope you allow us.
Right? We all hope somebody buys it, right?
I'll buy it.
You'll buy it? I know there's a few people that asked me about it, so he's not the only one. So that was my goal, is to have them all battle it out and get more to help us.
Always good to have competition.
Right? That's okay.
Is there a realistic low estimate as to what the two properties might be worth to offset this?
I would say this one might be 20 at the most, right? Not even. I would say over there we could get 250 to 275.
300 grand.
300.
So we already own property on that.
We do. We got it donated to us. Yeah, a resident donated us 5 acres. And so that's a big gift in itself, right? And if we don't do anything with it, we give it back to them. Because they're gonna keep it with the family. And they don't want Washington Township to make a profit.
Please let one person speak.
Right? And I think that's fair for a donation. We put it in on the deed. Because if we're gonna let it sit, I don't wanna have to pay taxes on it, I wanna have to, we'll just give it back to the farmer. But he was generous enough to give it to us, which is quite the gift. Otherwise, we would add that on to it too. Took us 2 years to find that. We really looked hard and asked around to find that land before we even started. Because we couldn't really do anything until we knew what the topography was.
And it's almost central.
It's very central, because you guys know where the location is?
No.
No.
So do you know when you go down County Road N and you would take a right on High Point to the church? Okay, so if you would take a left right across from High Point, it's that 5 acres right there. So nice, very nice location. Because we wanted something, we really looked for something that we wouldn't have to do a lot of excavating and keep our costs down. We're close to the highway, we didn't have to do a lot of electric. Put a lot of time into it, trying to get it affordable for all you guys, so it was nice. And then when we went and asked him, he said he'd just give it to us. So which was very, yeah, it was incredible. We didn't expect that. It's your chance to ask him questions one at a time. So you guys have been doing really good tonight.
Please state your name when you do. Yes, ma'am.
Nancy Cryer. We're looking at a lot of taxes in added onto our taxes in Green County with the new sheriffs and,
For jail.
jail, and also for the, Green County salt or whatever they have to have. And then we're also in, Monroe School District, so we're also looking for the new high school. So people that are on a budget and that it's hard to, wanna do this because we aren't made of money.
Did you go, I mean, Green County, we can't do much with that, right? Like,
No.
we're gonna,
No,
and so my question is, like, they realize they have to keep moving forward, and I just hate to see Washington Township end up costing us so much money later. Like, this is very, on a general note, it's not that expensive to build this whole project. Because everything is so expensive. If you look at the county, I think Chris Narson told me it was 35 million to build it, and now it's 53 million. Like, that's a big
In
deal,
3
and I think
years.
that was
That was in 3 years.
at 3 years ago.
It's 33,000.
Yeah, something, like, you
years
told me,
ago.
and I was like,
Now
that
it's
petrifies me,
52,000.
because like, how do we ever afford that? We need to keep it in our budget that we can afford. The bank gave us a great interest. Our loan is only $187,000 a year. We paid off our snowplow, we paid off another loan, so that'll help, because then we take off that 60,000, 50,000. So really, our payment this year is on 130, you know what I mean? So it's, like, we tried really hard in the last few years. Your taxes have not gone up in the last few years. Some have, some haven't, but we have to get everybody back into compliance, right? But that doesn't mean everyone's taxes are going higher. It just means that we're equalizing everyone's house value across the board, right? So, I don't know when a good time is. I feel like we could have had this conversation 3 years ago, and $900,000 would have been a lot in that time, right? Well, it just keeps going up, so when do we do it? Because my thing for this building is I feel bad for the people who come to vote, because some older people don't come because they can't make it in here. They do the absentee ballot, but some people are too nervous to fill it out. And I think that's very unfair. Like, they can't come here. We'll adjust. We'll adjust. Like, it's been doing this forever, right? Would we love a restroom? Of course. I mean, we have people peeing in our back all the time. We have we just do it, right? Shane ain't hard telling what he does, where at and what. But you know what? I mean, it is, I think we're the employer, right? And they are employees. Like, he's our employee, he's our employee. We need to treat them with respect. Would you go to your job and work that way, right? Or would you be the person, the employee, that goes to the employer and says, I'm not working under these conditions? Like, they could make a big deal out of it, but they don't, but they could.
I'm Kelsey Jensen. The one thing that concerns me with all the options besides the new building completely is it's a Band-Aid.
Right.
And I've seen firsthand in another municipality very close to here what happens when you Band-Aid things for 20 years. It ends up being triple the price, and you end up having to do it. You don't have a choice.
And that's my fear, is that we'll be forced to do it.
Right.
And then it's gonna be just, we don't have a choice, and we won't be sitting here.
Right. So I
want to give you guys a
concerned, yeah.
choice, right? Like, I don't want to be like that person is not giving you a choice to bid on, or not to bid, but choose.
Right.
You need to choose. And I just feel like it was a great time. We would have loved to have done it a couple years ago, but we just couldn't find the land. We were just struggling with trying to get it all in line, and it finally came, and he kind of put the pressure, like, if you want it done in '26, we really need to have something done by September.
And then when was the last time that we did a capital project like this in Washington Township?
Probably 1969, I think,
Right.
when the building was built.
Well, I think that pretty much makes
Richie
sense.
probably knows when it was built. Do you remember the year? I think it was like 1969 or something like that.
I mean, that's pretty incredible that it's been that long since we've had a capital project of this.
We had
capacity.
COVID money who helped us here. We got our new windows and our new floor, because, that was nice. So we didn't have to, that was, how much was that? We were here, you weren't here. None of you were here. You were here. I think it was 17,000 we had. So we tried to do what we had to do to keep it, so you guys could come in and vote,
Yeah.
right? And so they like wanted you to do that. That's why they were giving you money. So what's saying that we always hardly pass our election, right? Because the door you walk in, you fall over. And, you know, there's just so many things that wasn't done right. But like we said, once we start doing it, then we end up, we have to start all over and do a new ramp and a new door. And it's just like, and, you know, because if you look at that property line of our building, that's a triangle. Like, we don't even have, you know, the cheese factory's in foreclosure, right? So what happened is they come in, yes. Will they let us park over there for elections? And like Bruce was so kind, he'd make sure everybody was cleared out and this, and they parked somewhere else, right? Like, so we don't know who the next people are that are coming in. We could maybe tear down and buy that building, but then we still are in a situation like, what do we do? So we looked at really a lot of options. So we did all this before, but we just needed you guys to see this. Because last time we just gave you a number and I think everybody was like, well, I want to know more. And I didn't quite understand what you meant. I mean, I thought it's a $2 million project straight across. Let's save our money from having him do all the work again. And so now he broke it down for us so you guys can at least understand why we chose the larger project on a new land. Because we did 2 years of research trying to figure out what would be the most economical for you guys. Because I pay taxes too, right? I don't really want mine to go skyrocketing, and I'd be, as a resident, I'd be so mad in 10 years you guys decide to do this and it costs $20,000. I'd be like, we could have done this for $2 million, you know, and had it paid off in 10 years. Oh, sorry. Yes.
We're being assessed at $2.20 a thousand. So
Correct.
if you own a $300,000 property, that's $660 increase.
Right.
If you own more, keep that in mind. The other thing is, if we approve this project, how many years are we as the taxpayers on the hook? There's no information whatsoever of that.
Well, because they suggested for us to get a cheaper interest rate. We do a 5-year balloon and hope the interest rate's down again, and then it's usually half of what the market is for a government loan.
What happens when there's a cost overrun? I've seen this multiple times.
Well, he figured it in, so
I've done my best,
Yeah,
okay?
done it.
I can't, again,
he added, how much did
trying
you
to
add on
determine
that one?
costs,
It's hard.
especially with the volatility that there is in the construction trades and just everything in general, okay? Not only have we not returned to pre-COVID, which we're not going to, all right? We have tariffs now that are going in place that are causing a lot of upheaval in construction trades in terms of materials, so on and so forth. So it's tough. It's tough to do it.
We're going to get hit hard on tariffs.
No?
Because potash is a part of cement. And that comes out of Canada. So keep in mind, we're gonna get nailed on tariffs.
Well, what's gonna happen in 10 years on those tariffs?
Hopefully he's coming.
It's never gonna leave.
Sir, what is your name?
I'm Calvin Marks.
Thank you, Kel.
I'm new to this township.
Ryan Teasdale. First of all, thanks for the work you guys are doing. Thanks for the work you put into it. A couple questions, construction related. From a contract standpoint, how are we gonna go about carrying out the construction process? You guys talked about how we doing the general contractor. What kind of transparency are we gonna get out of that? I'd be real curious to see how the money's spent. And once that contract is written, it'll be open book, so everybody can see how the money's being spent.
I would assume it would be.
Well, and we haven't got the bids because we didn't want to put them to more
Of course
work,
not.
right? So I think that comes once we get the bids and then we can look. And if it comes to $3 million, guess what? We're done.
You gotta have your contract written first, right?
Yes, yes, so
So
it's,
that'll determine what kind of transparency we get, especially from a contractor. And that's what I'm interested in.
and we don't know who our general contractor is, of course, right?
The bids are closed.
And, yep, and the bids are closed, we open them at the table and usually
that's
they
open to
say.
the public.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah, oh, yes, definitely. Everything we've done has been very upfront and open. You guys have had all the access in the world to see what we're up to.
Yeah, public bidding law is required.
At the end of the day, and I think maybe this will address Calvin's question, we're asking for a 2 million borrowing cap.
Yeah. And then-
That, if that's approved with the approved project of choice by all of you, then we'll move forward about soliciting those bids. And if we come in at 2.1, we're done.
Yeah, we're not-
Because you guys gave us permission to go to 2 million.
Yeah.
And hopefully that answers your question and Kelvin's question about the overflow, the overrun. If we can't hit our budget, we're done. It's your vote. That is, am I saying that correctly?
Yes.
And I guess on the backside of that, Glenn, if we can push, if you can push a GC to push to save that money and continue to push down on that, that's where the open
But
book
when
comes
we
in.
save money, we don't get money for roads. It's different. It's the strangest thing in the world. We have to be in debt to get money for our roads, and we're in with debt. So we've kept it pretty tight. Like, we've been trying so hard to,
I know
and we
what you're
kept
saying.
it, I mean, we can't seem to get above $118,000 getting back for roads, because I didn't want to go too hard in our debt load, because the debt load is what we get taxed on,
What
and
you
that's
get your
what
money
they,
from the
right.
government.
Yes, so technically, this is a little larger. How much money are we in debt right now? If you know offhand?
So on that 2 million budget, please understand, if you go with the new site, and we can come in at that 1,999,000, we have assets to sell off.
Yes.
So we won't be spending that 2 million cap in the end. Your tax base will be below whatever the removal of our assets that we sell off of. So if we sell $250,000 off, which is the existing garage, we can put that $250,000 towards that 2 million budget cap. So now all of a sudden we're coming in at 1.7, I don't know, it's no opinion, but 1.7 or 1.8 versus an old project that is at 1.8, and we can't resell. So if you're following in my simple logic, and again, it's no opinion, but if we come in and go new and sell off the old, we'll have a whole new facility for the cost of remodeling the existing. Yes?
So if you're going for $2 million, so you're gonna go to the bank, you want $2 million, what's gonna happen to that extra money if you only spend 1.7?
We don't borrow it.
You don't borrow.
We only borrow what we need. You gave us permission to go up to 2 million.
So you aren't just going to the bank and getting a
No,
$2 million?
not at all. It doesn't work that way. They won't give it to us because they want to know how much our project is worth.
And the interest rate, Nanette, help us on the interest rate. What?
3.5.
3.5. None of us can borrow that interest rate right now. I believe you already used your 2 minutes. Do you want to grant more?
After the end of the year, we owe 220,000.
So we're 220,000 because we were 300 in some way. State your name.
Darrell Wheeler. I also want to thank you for taking the time to provide us with the additional information. This is helpful.
I can't hear you, I'm sorry.
I also want to thank you for taking the time to provide us with additional information. I was at the June 9th meeting,
We
and this
tried
is
really
helpful.
hard.
This is helpful. It's appreciated.
Thank you.
Second, I will say, it still bugs me to no end that we're here with such a small percentage of our township making this decision. I wish we could go to a referendum with this so that we could get everybody's voice in it. My one question is, we know we're doing a reassessment,
Right.
so we don't know the result of that reassessment. Is the $2.20 per thousand based on whatever the current assessment at the time is? Is that how that works? Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
John Witt.
Where are you at?
Former contractor. In fact, my dad and I actually built a recycling shed that's not being used right now for recycling. I'm going to say this right away. If you're going to do a project, remodeling and renovating is not the way to go. New construction. However, with that being said, is this a want or is this an absolute need right now? How many years have we done the current situation and layout? Have we had any injuries? Is there any health or safety factors that we are concerned about with the employees that run our tractors and plows and things like that currently?
No, I mean, I feel like that's fine, right?
So that's my question, is this a want or is this an absolute need right now?
Well, I feel like it's maybe a need because of the price. Because if we wait longer, then all you guys will end up paying a lot more, right? And so it's kind of like watching the building process in the last 5 years. It's just so crazy if we don't nip it in the butt right now and do something before it gets, and I use that 3-year difference between the county from 33 to 53 million. I mean, that's how much it went up in 3 years, you know, and they didn't change the floor plan. So what's it gonna do to us? I mean, we're not ever gonna go that big, right, of course.
No, I'm just saying, it also.
I would say this is definitely by far the most important thing, the town hall. And that was always our main reason, right? We wanted the town hall.
The other thing to keep in mind is obviously codes change, right? And you can't predict when they'll have, what's gonna be in it, all right? So if you wait and the code becomes more stringent, you have the possibility that you end up doing something that's even a little more elaborate than that in order to comply with code, okay? So it's just something that you don't know. We're still working on, under the 2015 International Building Code in the state of Wisconsin, okay? The 2024 is the current building code, right? So the state of Wisconsin has 3 additions back, right? They reissue the building code, the International Building Code, every 3 years. So 2015, 2018, 21, 2024, there are 4 versions back. So there are things that are in those newer versions of the code that you're not being held to right now because the 2015 code is still in effect in Wisconsin. So, and again, costs don't go down. Your facilities continue to deteriorate on an annual basis. Might not be something catastrophic, but it's just nagging things. The buildings start to be, they start to degrade. Concrete gets broken up. Stuff happens, Windows don't work anymore. Rusting steel. If something's leaking in the building and you don't know about it right now, maybe that goes on for a year. Now you've got problems with structural framing. So that's just the nature of owning a building. You have to do routine maintenance on it. It's just the way it is.
Why couldn't we just build a new town hall instead of a shed and everything else
We
up
can,
there?
we can, but it ends up to be a lot less expensive to build it all at once than just.
But why would we ever need another one when we have that one right there?
You're gonna upgrade
Upgrade
that
it
one.
some, it'd still be a lot cheaper than.
Do you think it would?
This is why we brought you all the options.
I'm just
And
asking.
it's your decision at the end. Lisa?
Well, we kind of looked at that and it wasn't that much less by the time we upgraded the town garage and built a new town hall over there. And then we have 2 properties again. Then we can't sell that one to help pay for the new project. It's like, in the end, it really didn't. It wasn't that much difference.
Well, you got facilities that are 2 miles apart. Okay, so you got a garage facility over here, you got an office over there. It can work. Okay, it's just not as efficient. It's more efficient to consolidate everything on one site.
Lisa?
Lisa Richard, I do feel it's an absolute need. I worked in insurance for many years, and you know how many tractors I saw start on fire and burn down a shed? We have a shed that has a gas tank in it. One person getting hurt is too many people getting hurt. Even people walking up to vote. 93-year-old mother-in-law. She couldn't come in here, and you better believe people that age don't want to do it by the mail or online. They want to walk in, make their mark, and they should have the opportunity to do that, I feel, right?
Jeff.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, Flick.
You mentioned about maintenance, the old building, how much maintenance has been done and upkeep on that to keep that in good shape? What's gonna be done to the new one to keep it in good shape and,
Well,
What kind of plan do you have for that?
in the last 6 years, we insulated, and we've been doing heating in it. We've done a few things to try to keep it running well, right? Yep. Well,
Yes, sir.
John Oliver. Is this the time to talk about funding again? So what are you talking about?
I'm sorry, can't hear
A
it.
question about the funding. On what you wrote here, we have a 5-year, 300,
It's a balloon.
187,000 a year. 5 years, that's only 950.
Right, they will reevaluate it, that's from Woodford State Bank, and they said that they could give me the best rate if we did 5 years, and it would be 3.5, and then after the end of that, we reevaluate, and then we do another 5-year. But they want you to pay it off in 10.
Okay. So the other question is, if you pay this loan off, does the assessment on the taxes go away?
Yes, yes, because how the assessment from us, the only way that you get assessed taxes from us is if we have debt. So we always carry debt, that's why you might have, but we always have been keeping it kind of low, so if you look at some of your taxes, you guys maybe paid, I'm gonna use Mr. Wheeler for instance, he had paid $7,400 before he lived there. In 2016, he paid $7,400 today. You know what I mean? So, but then you look at a different one, they've gone up 200, but in that 6-year period, they just really haven't, you've actually paid less because we try to keep our loan less.
So the amount of debt we have controls how much your
Correct,
taxes.
that's the
So
only
if
taxes from
this
us.
gets paid off,
Yes,
your taxes will go
yes,
down theoretically.
yes. Yes, exactly. Anytime we pay off debt, your taxes go down. Like last year, we took out a lot more money for roads because it was just a nightmare. So we took out $200,000 for that. Again, with our 118, because our debt was getting too low, we almost had to keep it. Otherwise, your guys' taxes, you'd be like way, way down, and then our levy goes down, and then we don't get any road money. And you need road money. It's a government runs so weird. I just don't. I think it should be run more like a business, right? But it's not. If you save money, you get penalized for saving money.
Kelvin? I'm Kelvin Marks, and I want to thank the board for listening to my concerns. But I have one more thing. In your meeting notice, you mentioned maintenance, road repair, whatever. There's no explanation. What are you doing road maintenance on?
Are you talking about last night's meeting?
No.
No.
What
It's
do
a
you have?
question it's a question I sent to Steve last night.
Oh,
It's the road maintenance and recycling facility.
so we have to do
What
the
are you-
road.
Well, no, it's the garage.
Oh,
It's how we
That's just the
it's
shop.
how we run the shop.
it's the
Shop to put their
garage.
equipment in.
That they use for them.
Yeah.
It's a building.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, so we said we were gonna vote at 7, so you get one last question.
John, put it again.
Oh,
What is the square, on the new facility, the square footage of
it
the
should
office
be in your
area?
notes,
You have to-
in the highlighted area, it's in your notes.
Ready?
Hey, Kevin Burnett, I work at Green County Highway, and we
It's
already talked
9:20.
about that, how
9:20.
prices increase so much. We, Green County Highway, we are going through this same shit show. We do not want to have a salt shed over there and a building over there. We want to have a complex where everything's there, where the guy's got his tractor there, loader there, loaded. We don't want to go move this thing over there. We're gonna have the same shit show of parking, because there's no room. So, I'm for this. We got the land donated. Let's rock and roll.
All right, so that was the last question. Are you guys ready to vote? Did everyone get a copy of the ballot and sign it? That is the most important. Pens are there.
All right, everybody in? Yeah, okay, so we tallied the results on ballot item number 1. There were 50 votes to approve, 19 to deny. On ballot item number 2, There were 46 votes to approve and 23 to deny. Yes.
Is this a quorum?
Yes.
How many voters, registered voters in this township?
I think
And then you gotta divide it by that to see if you've got a quorum.
No, isn't it 522? Where's Denise? I think it's 522. I believe.
How many voted at our last election?
235.
So 235 is a quorum?
That's how many voted the last election.
How many voted tonight?
He has the list here.
Oh,
You'll see the people.
70-some?
69.
69 people registered. I'm not sure everybody voted.
Great, thank you guys.
Just a minute. I wanna see if it's a quorum.
It's not.
Well, it's gonna go through as the vote is. Even if this is not a quorum, this is gonna go through.
So it doesn't matter if we have a quorum?
That isn't, no, they just said as long as you guys vote and give us the high number wins.
Wow.
Hi, how are you?
Thank you guys for your time.
Thank you.
Carrie. Carrie.
You know who the lady was?
No.
500 and what?
Lisa says administrator for Polaris.
Oh, yes, that's Kelsey. She lives right across the street. She lives right across the street.
I haven't heard an adjournment yet, so.
She lives
I know I was talking to
Divided by 570.
Kelsey Jensen.
You want me to do it?
8, 9 years.
Let's do it later. It doesn't matter. Yeah.
Yeah, to the White House. No, not the White House.
Just so I know.
They've been here. She's an Osby.
It's gonna go
Is that
through.
okay?
The one that was left
Amy might
that
be
was
with you. She's an Osby.
Anyway, you guys did a good job.
I need a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. At 7:30.